Hello, everyone. So I have a question for you. How many of you have been to a NASCAR event? Can I just have a show of hands? Well, that doesn't surprise me. And how many of you would intend to go to a NASCAR event? Well, that's our target customer right there. Those are the ones, we should be sending the promotional emails to. Well, we're here from the American University, and we are going to talk about revitalizing NASCAR. Before we go any further, I have a few spoiler alerts for you. You remember the people who raised their hands in the questions I asked you earlier? Well, those are our target clients. Those are the people we should be sending promotional emails to, sending discounts to, engaging with them throughout the year to get results. We've seen a positive impact of promotions in 2023 based on the data set that we were given. And they work like a charm. So we want to revamp them up in 2024. Also, we are predicting an expected revenue of a minimum of $50 million for NASCAR in 2024. Let's look at our data set. So we got the NASCAR data set from MIT. It had about 600,000 rows with a range of data from 2020 to 2023, and I think, that was it. We cleaned up the data, we created subsets for our analysis, and for our analysis, we used different methods, including random forest, linear regressions, time series analysis, and association rules for market basket analysis. The software that we used was Tableau, R, Python, and Excel.
But let's talk about what makes NASCAR great. It's an iconic blend of its iconic races combined with strong partnerships, engaging fan experiences, and high-profile drivers. But who are NASCAR's customers? Majority of them is male and over 50, 60 years old. 20% are minorities, 40% have families with kids under 18 years old, that can be future customers. NASCAR's largest markets include LA, New York, Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas. And NASCAR's customers' average annual income is $86,000, which is way above the US national average income of $60,000. NASCAR's largest buyer group is standard ticket holders, which shows that NASCAR's core group remains strong. However, our youth groups are underperforming. NASCAR must invest in these groups if it wants to ensure future sustained growth. But let's take a look at the ticket sales. There was a decrease in standard ticket sales from 2022 to 2023. However, this is not indicative of overall sales. In reality, 2023 sales are similar to those before COVID. And the increase that we observed in 2022 is due to the easing of lockdown restrictions, so more people wanting to go out, and that's why we see this unusual spike in our data.
Now that we have an idea of what our data set looked like, let's look at some of the predictive models we use. The first thing we are predicting here are the number of tickets sold per event. So we used random forest method for our analysis here. We also tried other methods like gradient boosting and SVR, but random forest was the best fit for this particular data set. The original data set consisted of about 600,000 rows, but we created a subset of 10,000 data points to run the model efficiently. As you can see here, we have an R-square of 0.63, which indicates that our model fits the data accurately. However, we need to keep in mind that we had a limited time for building this model. If with more analysis and more time, this can reach up to 90% or higher. As you can see on the screen, the actual and predicted model data points are pretty close to each other. We do have some outliers that we see towards the right-hand side. However, this is due to the fact that we had multiple outliers in the year 2022. Which we've assumed as a COVID lockdown component. The next prediction that we have is the number of tickets sold per transaction. Now, why is this important? can be, right. So now why is this important? This will help NASCAR estimate the number of people visiting every event. As we can see, we use linear regression for this model. Again, we tried multiple methods, but linear regression was blue. So, as we can see, the average number of tickets per transaction range from 2 tickets to 4 tickets. There are some outliers with 10 to 12 tickets per transaction. And individually, these outliers bring in more revenue. But since majority of our transactions lie in the 2 to 4 tickets per 2 to 4 tickets per transaction range, that is where our money is coming in from, and that is what our focus area should be.
Then we predicted NASCAR's ticket sales rate. We found that for every additional fan that attends the race, 2 tickets are being sold. And the minimum tickets that NASCAR needs to sell annually is around 84,000. But here's where it gets interesting. If NASCAR decides to sell those tickets 6 months in advance, it will have to double this rate and triple it if it decides to sell those tickets 3 months in advance. What does this mean for NASCAR? It means opportunity. Opportunity to capitalize on fan enthusiasm and increase revenue, but it's also a challenge to meet demand and boost marketing strategies. Ultimately, these are some milestones that NASCAR can monitor, and what we need to understand are the purchasing patterns of our customers, which we will examine later. If NASCAR decides to sell the minimum number of tickets that we mentioned, we are forecasting a revenue of around $50 million for 2024, minimum. So here's a time series analysis. We see some seasonal fluctuations of our ticket sales, with peaks in April, August, and October, and the sales are decreasing during the winter due to fewer races. And of course, the seasonal fluctuations are normal for NASCAR, but what we observed is that the magnitude of these seasonal fluctuations is decreasing from 2022 to 2023, which means we're having more consistent sales as we're moving on to 2023.
Right. Now, remember I told you that the promotions did wonders in 2023. As you can see on your screens, the promotions in 2023 increased the total ticket sales from about 15,000 to 23,000. And we want to revamp this up in 2024 again. Now, on the screen, you will also see that standard ticket sales reduced incredibly from 2022 to 2023. Here, we want to reiterate that based on our assumption, the 2022 sale is an anomaly because of ease in COVID-19 lockdown, and people were going out more.
Remember the seasonal fluctuations we saw? Promotional offers are here to confirm those patterns. We saw that NASCAR sent most promotional offers in October and April, 2 of the months that we saw the ticket sales spike, and which means that they work, and then they send most of those offers to our standard ticket holders, which is our core group.
Right. Now that we have a sales strategy, let's come up with a marketing strategy as well. So we used association rules to do a market basket analysis for NASCAR. Here you see the confidence and lift ratios for different events. So for example, if someone visited a 2022 JR ACP NASCAR Series event, they are 99.6 times more likely to have visited the 2023 ACS NCS event. So what does this help us with? We see these patterns throughout the data set that was given to us. We can use these patterns to predict who will be attending similar events in 2024, and those are the people we want to send our emails to. Those are the people who want to see our ads on Instagram. Those are the people who we want to send our promotions to. We want to engage with them early on using these trends so that we can ensure that they come to our events in 2024.
Now we'll start with our timeline. If NASCAR decides to take on those proactive measures that we mentioned earlier, it can start with a teaser announcement of the event date and venue on social media 6 months in advance to build anticipation. 3 months in advance, it can increase early bird ticket sales with exclusive offers to incentivize customers to buy tickets early. 2 months in advance, it can launch a full-scale promotional campaign to increase awareness and excitement for the event. 1 month in advance, it can transition to its regular ticket sales. 2 weeks before the event, it can share any behind-the-screen content to engage customers with NASCAR. And 1 week leading up to the event, it can release any last-minute offers to ensure that every seat will be filled. Now we'll move on to our sales strategy, which is divided into 2 components: youth engagement and maintaining current audience. We saw that our young groups are underperforming, and young people, they love social media and virtual reality. If NASCAR wants to diversify and attract new audience, it can host virtual watch parties with live Q&A, since not everyone can attend those events in person. Partner with influencers for promotional discounts and create a fan ambassador program so young people can engage with NASCAR from a young age, building up that loyal customer base. Moving on to the virtual reality, NASCAR can expand its existing X Stadiums mixed reality, where fans can predict race outcomes, compete on virtual leaderboards. But we also want to maintain our current audience. We saw that targeted campaigns have a positive effect on sales, so NASCAR should follow the same approach using the association rules we showed you earlier. We also saw that our current largest customer demographic is older people, and they love their nostalgia events. But make them interactive so NASCAR can attract young people as well. We also suggest that NASCAR should expand its school partnerships, starting from the East Coast, South, and then move west based on the most profitable venues like Daytona, LA, and Michigan. And in this way, it will be able to build up that loyal customer base that we're looking for. Thank you.
Is this on? Yeah, okay. Great job, guys. That really was a great job. You guys found a lot in this data. One question that I have, and you guys saw when we're actually selling tickets, and you guys are absolutely correct in your months and all of your findings. This is really good. I love the modeling that you did. I think my question, did you guys see in your research, did you see any indications that consumers tend to purchase later or closer to an event than historically? I know you didn't have a lot of data, but that's one thing that interests me here, to see if you guys found that more people, are really holding on to their money longer before purchasing. Did you guys see that in the data at all?
Right, so I know we do not have all the data, so I can not say this with 100% confidence. If we had the details for the races as well, that would be better. But based on what we saw, you have different buyer groups. You have the standard buyer group, youth buyer groups. And these trends vary for different buyer groups. For example, a young professional might wait for a last-minute offer, but someone who knows that they have to go to this particular event in next August, they will go ahead and buy your early bird tickets, and they'll plan their day out. So it depends a lot on what your buyer group is, and that's why we are going with a targeted approach. Every buyer group has a different need, and that's why we have a whole yearly ticket release sale plan that we came up for you.
Yeah, I love that answer. And one other point here that you guys spoke a little bit about emails and campaigns and this type of thing. And within each of those groups that you talk about their purchasing behavior, did you see, and again, this is, I know you didn't have a lot of data here, but looking at how to communicate with those groups wouldn't necessarily come through. You just mentioned email a few times. Do we feel like that's still our relevant means of communication with all different groups?
So yes, emails work, but also you have to look which customer segment we're looking at. If you look at your older customers, they're gonna come through your website, through the emails, or through TV. But if you're looking at the younger people, they're on TikTok all day. They're using social media. Every ad or promotional offer they're gonna see, it will come through social media. So you have different interactions there, and you have to adjust your strategy based on that.
I agree with Clay. Great presentation. Loved the flow back and forth. A question with the basket analysis. I saw obviously some opportunities for us to identify some portions of the population that are cross-promote other tracks. Did you see was it regionally tied together, or was there anything in the data that suggested what the relationship was between the tracks that popped there?
Right. So if we can go back to the first slide, I think. That's okay, I can just walk you through. So in the very first slide, we had a heat map with all your main venues. So we did identify a few tracks for you. Yeah, the one before this. The first slide. That's okay. So we have data on your tracks in LA and Michigan. Those are the ones that are the high-performing tracks. We can, popularize the other tracks as well. For example, all the tracks that you see that are in dark green here, those are the tracks that have high potential. Those are the tracks that have the potential to grow and do as well as Daytona is doing. It's just a matter of promotion and strategy and putting in the investment in those tracks as well so they can grow. So Daytona definitely is doing the best, but it's from dark green to light green. That's how the color is varying.
Yeah, if I could just piggyback off of Brooks's question. When you saw the propensity of somebody to buy in one race and then go to another, would they also increase the amount of tickets they were purchasing the second time around? Like, did you see that also positive trend? Or?
Right, so we did not have the exact data of who was making the purchase, but based on the transaction history, we anticipated that if someone is attending to this event, there's a 90% chance that they would be. Now, how association rules picks this up is based on the similarity of the event rather than the person itself, because we did not have the identity within the data set that was given to us. However, the number of tickets that we did see per transaction remained constant from about 2 to 4 tickets per transaction with a few outliers. But since that is where the majority of the money is coming from, we are suggesting that we keep our focus for those 2 to 4 tickets per transaction.
I don't know that I'm going to end up with a great question here, so I'm going to try to go through here. I really like the demographics that you guys came out with, 66% male, 20% minority. That's pretty darn close there. That's really good. You also mentioned one of our top subjects of making sure that we are engaging with that younger crowd to bring them in. As we look forward. Now, Brooks mentioned, geographical regions, and you guys mentioned, and help me with this list real quick, LA, New York, Dallas, Atlanta, that was all, Chicago?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Michigan as well.
And Michigan. All right, got it. I'm surprised that, I guess Georgia's there, Florida, Alabama, is, looking across that southeastern domain there, Okay, that answers my question, though. Thank you.
I guess one other question I had is, like, when you talk about pulling forward the sales cycle, did you notice any differences in terms of, like, do younger people just wait until closer to the race to buy versus older are buying further out? Like, does the demographic influence when they're likely to be purchasing days out to a race?
Yeah, so young people, and I can speak for myself as well, I will go through a website multiple times before I actually decide to buy a ticket. That's why we offer the early bird ticket sales with more incentives, so you can actually persuade me to buy a ticket.
Thank you. Yeah, so that was factored into your sales.
Yes.
Yeah, it's hard to see the text. It's so small. But
I know.
Yeah, yep, okay.
We were only limited to 15 slides, so we had to include a lot of information in one
thank you.
slide.
Just
when you guys talked about your 6-month sort of sales strategy, go to market, I know it was 50 million was sort of the target revenue number. Is there
Yes.
anything else the NASCAR team should be looking at in terms of like measures of success, of like this was a successful program to put in place?
Yeah, I think the focus should be on younger people because when we did the analysis, we saw that 160 million tickets were sold on the standard group, but youth was like 1 million and less. And your current largest customer demographic is people who are 56 years old and older, and you need sustained growth. So you need to build that customer base early on. And for example, with the families, you have people, 40% of them have families under 18. Start providing more discounts to them. Those kids will love NASCAR from a very young age, and they'll be engaged. Yes. Any other questions?
So what did you do with the data from 2020 and 2021?
Right. So in the predictive models that we showed you, we've incorporated the data from 2020 to 2023. It's all of the data. However, to dig deeper and to predict 2024 values, we needed more recent data. So that's what we focused on. Because we are predicting the sales for 2024, and after the pandemic, there's been a huge change in market. So we're looking at, post the lockdown was over, to have more recent information. But if you actually look at the predictive models, they have the complete data that was included from 2020.
Did you find differences? Did you remove the data and then put it in? And what differences did you find with the full set versus the subset?
Right. So if you look at just 2020, 2021, and 2023, for example, the numbers are similar. For example, in our graph, we did see a lot of outliers, right? In the first predictive model that we were using, those outliers go away if you're not including 2022 out there. So that is one big change that we saw with 2022 being out there, but only with 2023 we see very high revenues, which does not represent the reality of today. So we wanted to keep 2024 in. And we wanted to share with you that the outliers are there for a reason, but that does not mean that our sales have gone down a lot. It just means that we are going back to the pre-pandemic numbers, and we have to grow from here.
Very good. So this is an opinion question, okay?
Okay.
All right. So you used, sorry, thanks. So you have linear regression in here. You've used predictive models. You used random forests as opposed to, and XGBoost. You did do some
Exponential smoothing.
Yeah. Okay. What was your favorite way to model it?
I think linear regression, you get the most insights out of that. We also tried models like neural networks, what was it, ARIMA, but those models didn't work as well with the data as the ones we presented today.
How were the neural networks? How did that? What did you combine to create the neural network? The different
Right.
types
So
of
the
models?
main factors that we were considering were the age, the distance from the track, the average income of the person buying the ticket, the buyer group. So we created dummy variables for all the categorical variables, and we were using those. However, with neural networks, since we were using a subset of the data and not the entire data set, due to our machines being old and we were not able to run this model for the complete data set, neural networks were overfitting the data. So if we used that model, it wouldn't give you the very accurate information. That's why we went with simpler model but more accurate ones.